Hello, everybody. I'm happy to see you here. Today, I would like to talk about low carb on a budget. And some people complain about the fact that once they do low carb, they spend so much more money on the food and they can't afford it. So I hope with this video, I can give you some tips to make low carb a bit more affordable, especially when money is a limiting factor. But again, even a low carb diet that is a little bit cheaper is still better than a diet on processed food. So you still have a lot of benefits and there's lots of cool tricks you can do. So keep in mind, on a well-formulated ketogenic diet, you are actually less hungry. So you eat much less than you would do on a carbohydrate-rich diet. So if you follow the rules very strictly, if you only eat when you're hungry and not eat when you're not hungry, that in itself is actually a money saver because you don't need as much food as you would on a carbohydrate-rich diet. Okay. Of course, organic and free range is the best option, but again, as I said, just do whatever you can, and I hope you can give some sort of people some good advice how to do low carb on a budget. So first is planning and shopping. Plan a few days ahead. Have a really strict shopping list, and don't buy anything that is on that list. If you plan ahead, you minimize waste and you're much better organized. Avoid any bargains. So often they make you spend much more money than you actually wanted to, unless the expiry date of what you have bought in larger amounts is very far away from it. And of course, bulk buying and then freezing it is another cheaper option. But don't fall into the trap of buy two for the price of one or something like that, and you actually don't need the second one. Buy seasonal and regional. So avoiding the transport costs. Exotic foods are usually much more expensive than just going to a local farmer. And often local farmers sell quite large quantities and it's so much cheaper and it's so much healthier as well. Try to buy the best quality you can. Of course, grass-fed meat products are always better, or pasture-raised products. Organic can still be grain-fed. It's the next best option, at least it's organic. And so even if that's too much and you just have the normal standard sort of industrial food, that's still better than the processed carbohydrate food. As per meat, you can aim for grass-fed or pasture-raised, but if that's not on, then it's not on, and that's okay. If you buy chickens, or buy a whole chicken, buy half a lamb or half a goat or something like that. So the more you buy, the cheaper it often becomes. As for chicken meats, just get chicken thighs or wings. They're usually less expensive. And don't waste any bones. So if you buy a whole animal or half an animal, depends on the animal, don't waste it, make bone broth out of it. Maybe add some eggshells to the bone broth. So that's much better, has a much higher mineral content, and has much higher quality than if you would buy bought bone broth. And it doesn't really, it's not really much of an effort. You just chuck all the bones in one pot, let it boil for 24 hours, and there you have it. So you don't really have to do anything. It doesn't even cost you any time. And then buy organ meats. Organ meats are so much higher in quality. They contain so much more minerals and vitamins as opposed to the lean meat. So organ meats are usually cheaper because no one really wants it, but they're actually the much higher quality meat. So liverwurst, for example, has pretty much everything you need to live. So it's really, really high quality food, and it's cheap. Try the fatty meats, really make advantage of those sort of fat phobia. Everything is lean. On a low carb, high fat diet, you want to have the fat. And if you buy the fatty cuts, they're actually so much higher quality. Not only are they cheaper, but they're higher quality. They contain so much more omega-3 fatty acids and so much more healthier fatty acids. So the fatty meats are actually the more healthy ones. So that's great, because at the moment we still have that fat phobia because we believe fat is not good for us, but it's good for the low carb people. Eggs is a really excellent protein source. So eggs are relatively cheap and they're very nutritious. And if you have a small little backyard, have your own chickens. They don't really cost much, so they keep the garden free, and you enjoy their eggs. So eggs have everything that supports life. And please don't be afraid of cholesterol. So you can have as many eggs as you like. It's not going to give you any harm whatsoever. So just have eggs and enjoy them. There's absolutely no worry about cholesterol. So that's all false information. Proteins and fish, sardines and anchovies are relatively cheap. They're an excellent source of omega-3 fatty acids, and they're very, very protein rich. Have the entire fish. So the canned ones, they often come in the entire fish anyway, because this way you get much more collagen and minerals. Canned fish are often cheaper than fresh caught fish, but be careful when you buy the canned fish that they don't have any vegetable oils in it, so that's not a good thing. And the good news is anchovies and sardines are almost always wild caught, so you can't really go wrong with this. Vegetables, cabbage is relatively cheap, and it is loaded with nutrients, especially with vitamin D. Who would believe that? And same with squash and pumpkin. They're very, very nutrient dense, and they're loaded with vitamins and antioxidants. And the good news is you don't have to buy them organic, because they have a very thick shell, so which is really the protection for all the pesticides that the farmers are using. So squash and pumpkin, excellent source, and they're relatively cheap. You can also buy vegetables that are fresh frozen or coming in the tin. They're longer lasting, you have less wastage, and most of the time, most of the minerals and vitamins are actually quite well preserved. Not all of it. Fresh is always better, but hey, what are you going to do in winter? And that's perfectly fine. For vegetables, grow your own vegetables is so much fun. And even if you just have a small little balcony, especially the green leafy vegetables as in spinach, it's so easy to grow, and it's a lot of fun for the kids as well. Or grow your own mushrooms. All you need is a dark room, just to put a box of mushrooms in there and you harvest your own mushrooms. It's so much cheaper. Again, alternatively, just go to the local farm and just buy bulk and freeze the rest of it. So buy it fresh and freeze them in the freezer. Add some fat. So add butter to your meal. So it keeps you full for longer. It is good with good fats. Or add some oils to the salads. Gives you full, keeps you full for a little bit longer, and it tastes very good as well. So that's excellent. As for the nuts, the pecan nuts are relatively low cost, and they contain quite a fair bit of minerals as well. And if you buy nuts, just buy them with a shell and crack them yourself. So that is so much cheaper. They're often less than half the price if you buy them in the shell as opposed to they're peeled already, and they last much longer as well. So let's say even if you have a nut tree in your garden, you can pick all of this and you can last forever. So again, by bulk, it is cheaper, and if you buy them in the shell, it's fairly cheap to get the normally quite expensive ones. And if you want to, just grow your own. It's very easy to do. As for the replacement flowers, so sesame flower and flaxseed flower, so they're very popular. What you can do is just buying them as a seed, and that's what I do. First, it's much cheaper. You can buy them bulk. Don't buy them as a flower already. And once you need it to make your keto bread, just blend them up in the blender. That's what the industry is doing. They just take the seeds, chuck them in the blender, and fill it up in the bag. So the advantage of this is really you don't have already blended flour. You just do it as you need it, and all the oils are not leaching out of it, so they don't go rancid as fast. So it's cheaper, and it's actually much higher quality as well. Do some batch cooking, so it saves you time and it saves you money. And then freeze your portions, so that's portion control as well. And you have less wastage. You just cook most of it at once. Cook for an entire week or a couple of days. Saves you money, and it saves you time as well. And the cheapest option in a low carb diet is fasting. Fasting is such an excellent tool to boost your metabolism, boost your immunity, and it saves you a lot of money and time. So fasting is very, very healthy, and I dedicate an entire video to fasting. It's an excellent thing you can do for your own health, and it doesn't cost you anything. It's completely for free. So I hope you could find some useful tips in there, how you can do low carb on a budget. I hope you found some sort of money saving tips. That would be absolutely excellent if that's what keeps you going. If you have any more ideas, please share them below in the comments box. And again, don't forget, on a good ketogenic diet, you don't need as much food. You are less hungry and you need less foods. And I would like to share one story with you from one of my patients. He was in his late 50s. And he was playing computer games all day long, and he was actually quite metabolically unhealthy. So first he spent a lot of money on medication, and because he's kind of lost interest in life, he was playing computer games and was on the screens on Facebook all day long. And he said, I have no time, I can't do this. And then he actually found the more he got busy with his own cooking and he started gardening. He lives in an apartment with a very small balcony, so he had all his balcony covered in little pots of little plants. And he was actually, instead of being busy and sitting on the sofa all day long playing computer games, he was busy with his own life. He was busy with attending his plants, and he was so proud of it. And he said, Anya, I would have never thought that's going to happen to me. He actually does have the money because he doesn't spend as much money on games anymore or on any other sort of technical gadgets. He's much more in touch with himself. He's healthier, he's fitter, and he's so much happier because he's doing something really useful for himself. So it has changed his entire life, and I'm really happy to see that happening. Well, I was really happy to just watch that transition of that patient. So he really enjoys it. And he said, I actually do have the money. Money was never the problem. It was just the priority he had set. So I hope you found it inspiring, and I hope you found a couple of tips here and there which would be applicable to you. And please remember, even a slightly cheaper version of a low carb is still better than a carbohydrate diet or processed food diet. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.